I'm Catherine Mataga, and my 86-year-old father has tested positive for COVID, and he's in a home, and out of 23 out of 25 residents there tested positive. Still no symptoms, but it is what I'm dealing with right now. So just talk about that a little bit. I don't know. Am I supposed to talk about this? It's like all the the pro YouTubers, they all say COVID-19. They say, it's like they treat it like the F word or something. But I don't know what's going on there. But I don't care. I don't care. This is just for fun. So whatever. I don't mind. If I get I'm unmonetized anyway, so it doesn't matter. I don't care about that. Anyway, so yeah, with him, there's like unrealized potential for bad things happening, but so far nothing bad has happened. I don't need any help on this. And, and we just have to get through it. And so far, it's like, it's going to be what it is, I think. But so far it's fine. He's old, but he's pretty hardy. He did survive the Japanese internment camps in World War II. Of course, he never said anything about this. This is the Japanese way, is to have super important things, critical things, and say absolutely nothing. So that seems to be the tradition, of which I only have. So I think I only have half of this. I don't know if you repressed the memory of it, but he was definitely didn't talk about it. The fact is, we weren't. I think about it now. We weren't really that close. I confess we had issues even before the trans thing. And honestly, that came out so when I was in my 20s. So it was just we were just sort of polite and cordial at that time. But when we were kids, his parents, my grandparents, and my Japanese side grandparents, they lived in Santa Monica, which is like a 45-minute drive away from us, and we did not see them much at all. We saw them maybe 4 times. We saw them for a funeral, and very rarely. There was something going on, and what I later found out was that my father had shame. He felt shame about having a white wife and a half Japanese kid. What did she later confess to me? It was not, it was not how he thought his life would go. And the story he told me later, when he got older, was that when I was born, he did not tell people at work that I was born. I was born, but he kept it a secret with people at work. And so there's, there was something there, I don't know if this has caused any sort of wounded core issues in me, but there was something going on there. Though maybe I'm the same. I confess, I think he and I've inherited some tendencies from him too, perhaps, and that, I had all kinds of internal turmoil. I think a lot of us go through that. Maybe I think straight people go through this too, but I think, you go through stuff that, you would never say a thing about ever, and I grew up with massive repression, just all of this kind of stuff, and I had, I was sort of two people, I had an internal fantasy life that wasn't real, but it was sort of, it was sort of where the animal instincts went to. But then during the day, all that goes away. It's you have a dream of flying, but you don't go jump off your roof. I always knew the difference. I always knew what was real, even though it was kind of two different things, and it was sort of involving deeply personal things, kind of. And here's the thing about repressing this stuff is people assume if you repress it that some kind of, if you press, people assume that you're you're gonna be like other people, and you're gonna follow the herd and be like a normal more normal heterosexual persona would emerge. Even if that's not really you, maybe you would fake it. But no, for me, no. No. And for me, what happens is when you repress it, what happens is there's nothing that, like, basically it just goes away. And what's left is I move on to other things. You put away kind of the social aspects of this, and then I got interested in studying, and in school I was a studious kid, and I was interested in like science and electronics and stuff like that. And I did have a thing for food as a kid. I've learned to control this later, but like as a kid, I was the food thing. And I remember my mother was suggesting to me, oh, you must be really excited about, there must be some girl you want to meet at Burger King, and I remember thinking, no, I want to go to Burger King for the Whoppers. I'm not there. I don't give a damn about meeting men and women. I wanted the meat. I want the beef. I want to eat the food. That's what motivated me. That's my first joy. Is just eating a lot of crappy food, which comes to bite me now and then, but I've managed to get under control at times in my life. Now, actually, I'm sort of back on top of it now. And, I would say maybe the last, this is kind of the kind of the coming out story a little bit, but not quite. It's like, maybe there's something that other people saw that I didn't see. Because, I had a friend who told me I was trans. Like, I was 8th grade, and this guy said, we were friends part of this, and he showed me this magazine article, and we didn't have a big blow up or anything, but then we had this thing, we talked about it, and then it's sort of like, then we drifted away, and we didn't talk anymore, but it was an article, I think, in a magazine, Time or Newsweek, one of those back in the 70s. It's like, what is it? We had no internet. We had magazines, and you had to see. And if you didn't subscribe to magazines, you had to go to the library to see them. So it was more. You had to either pay American money for them, or you had to go to the library. And I saw this article in news. I forget, it's Time or Newsweek, one of those, and I was hugely intrigued. And I spent a lot of times those days scouring magazines in the library for this kind of stuff. And I would, I had the sort of studious nature, so I had researched like a science project, so it was like, I would just like find all the books and stuff. And those days, like there were no early transitioners, so nobody knew about it. It never even occurred to me that it might happen when I was young. So there wasn't that. I didn't have the envy of like somebody else who started early. I just thought like, oh my God, there was like, was it Renee Richards? These kind of people, they were pretty famous, but they were adults. And I thought, well, yeah, maybe that'll be me. It's kind of at one time I thought, Though I also do remember doing the sort of strange mathematical, like how many trans people are there in the country? Like the odds of this are absolutely minuscule or something like that. It's kind of doing the like, couldn't be possible, but like, no. There's a lot of, like in your brain, there's a lot of round and round, especially if you don't have anyone to talk about it with, but eventually, I went through college, I graduated high school, went to college, and, I did act out on this, I was free to go once I had like a little money. And I was okay at making money as an adult, basically. So I'm kind of like, I never was broke or anything. But I think maybe worse, like I may have procrastinated. Like there might be a few wasted, like a year or two wasted somewhere in there. But I sort of got started investigating this pretty early. And in theory, I'd be free to let loose. I'd be like, this is the time to go. But, what happened instead was like all that kind of repression, it kind of left a mark, and I think my natural tendency was to sort of, I had spent a lot of time being repressed, and that the AIDS epidemic didn't help either, so it was like, there's definitely this idea that, oh, you're going to like, you're going to get AIDS and you're going to die, You know, like, there was a lot of death back then. It's hard to explain. I think people younger don't know how really it was. This is my second pandemic. I've been through another pandemic. You people have only been through this one. You've seen one pandemic. I've been through two, and you would go to restaurants and people, your waiters would be dead, like they just disappear. And so for me, what happened is I think the repression, it kind of became my personality, and I got to the point where I could sort of like fake kind of being a normal person, but somewhere, deep down, the things that were repressed like didn't come back properly. It's like it got squashed a little bit, and it's hard to explain. But I would say, in intimate situations, there's a not really there to me a little bit, and this is something I just have to deal with, I would say. But, I didn't go to alcohol, I didn't go to drugs, anything like that. I tried to be productive. I thought, well, maybe things are broken. I'm going to do other stuff, and for me that was, work mostly, and also just weight loss. And I've been up and down on the weight loss. So for me, it's like, I'm not a naturally thin person. It takes conscious effort for me to both have a job and to lose weight, so it's like that, just those two things consume a great deal of my life, basically. So that kept me busy, and I do think I have a better I do think I have better insight into my father. Going back to my father, I was talking about him. It's like, as he got older, he lost a lot of his inhibitions. Partially that was due to his, mental condition, I think, but he was cordial to me, and we basically got along okay, I was the one who showed up, I think that made a difference, but I think also the absence of grandchildren and, the end of the genetic line, he did panic about that. And, and he was pretty old, and he was rushing around trying to hit on women on Facebook with the idea that he'd marry them and he'd have children. But that's what he wanted. But and partly because of me, not my intention, but because of who I was, that this never happened, And oh well, so it goes, you deal with the loss, you cry a little, and then you move on. And we all have things we have to deal with, I think, a little bit, but that's how it goes. With my father right now, I'm still in the hopeful phase. Maybe he'll get COVID infected and just will never get symptoms. It's possible. It's just, I just found out like a day or so ago, so maybe he'll be fine. But I don't know. I'm thinking about it. It's causing me to reflect and think about old days and those things. So that's why I made this. Anyway, I'm also trying to improve my audio a little bit. So we'll see. It's a work in progress, I would say. So thank you for watching. Bye.